Attention to details. Which, okay, attention to details you can understand, but it should be attention to detail. Shouldn't have the S on the end of it. Experience in gaming or translation industry is a plus. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that on a bulleted list. So when you're looking at this, you gotta make sure that you're not trying to over-edit something that is perfectly fine in your local language. So really the job of a localization copy editor is to make sure that we don't have the same mistakes that we did in the past with translations, like all your base or belong to us, that kind of a thing right there. Familiarity with text-heavy games is a plus. That's good because I love text-heavy games. I'm a big Final Fantasy nut, so we're talking about the old ones, like Final Fantasy 3 and back, or Final Fantasy 6 and back, depending on whether you're English or Japanese. But if you're working in a sound booth, what that's telling me is that this is not pre-lay animation, that this is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with lip flap, and that's actually good for me, because I have a skill set that a lot of people don't have, which is metrical poetry. When you're dealing with the differences between Japanese and English, knowing the rhythm of your own language makes a hell of a lot of difference. And I'll just give you an example of something that can go wrong in the lip flap. Let's say I'm trying to say I don't speak Japanese. It's very simple, it's 4 words, it's I don't speak Japanese. And if you wanted to break it down into syllables, it's going to be I don't speak Japanese. That's six syllables, okay? In order for me to say I don't speak Japanese in Japanese, I have to look at the person and say, Watashi wa Nihongo ga sukoshi shika hasumimasen. Now, I don't know if you caught that, but there are more words in that phrase than there were syllables in the English version. The English version had 6 syllables, the Japanese version had 17. And there are some parts of the English language that flip it. So, a background in metrical poetry, what that ends up granting to a company that has to deal with lip flap is that if I actually get to see the animation that they're trying to fit ahead of time, my background in linguistics and metrical poetry allow me to visually look at the motions of a mouth in the animation and be able to pick out fricatives, plosives, vowels, and other complete words that fit perfectly within those parameters. And that is also consistent with the rhythm of the English language, with the end result being that a sound engineer can get through a recording session faster, which saves the sound engineer time, which saves the production team's time, and ultimately would save the company quite a bit of money. And another thing is I want it to sound good. I want all of my games to sound really amazing. One of the things that I use in my writing is I have a book that I've written. It's handwritten. It's just a list of, doesn't even really show it, but it's mostly a list of words that are the most beautiful words that I think are in the English language to sing. It's not necessarily the most beautiful words in the English language, just the most beautiful words that you can actually sing out loud to, and most of the time find a perfect word to match whatever it is that I need to do. The different letters, every letter has a page, or 2 or 3 or 4. And the composition of this book was kind of easy, but it takes some time. It's just a matter of, especially when you're hearing songs on the radio, listening to the words that keep getting repeated over and over again from song to song. There's like 1,000 songs about angels because the word angel is like very pretty when it is sung out loud. But anyway, here's one of my favorite old blogs that I used to read on the differences between Japanese and English, and it's pretty fun and pretty telling. If I go directly to the grammatical structure, what he has to say about it is amazing. The Japanese have what could be called an interesting grammatical structure, but could also be called confusing, random, bogus, or evil. In an English sentence, Jane went to the school. The same sentence in Japanese, school Jane to went monkey apple carburetor, because of extra politeness and different things that they have to have. Japanese grammar is not for the faint of heart or the weak of mind. So sentence structure and word order in Japanese versus English are so totally different that a lot of this stuff starts to make sense as to why it seems so out of order. It's because their brains and our brains put everything in a different order every time we speak. Whether it's putting the subject before the verb before the subject, or the participle before all of that, whereas in English the participle goes completely after. It's a matter of being understanding of the other culture, and then when you understand it, you can put it into your own words. So it's pretty clear that a copy editor with localization skills is going to be able to adapt your video game script linguistically and culturally to fit your target market, which in our case is going to be English. Another thing that might help if you're going to be a localization editor is a passport. I've got one. I can get where I need to go. If I get hired to the company, not only can I do the localization editing, I can also train others to be more effective at it as well. With my own skill set, I've got a ton of linguistics training in English and Spanish and some other languages, but to the point where the Navy was actually trying to recruit me to crack codes as a teenager because of my handle on languages. And I'll tell you exactly how I got so good so fast at the English language. It was from reading. It was from reading Dragonlance, specifically. I had an obsession with Dragonlance. I read all of these huge books full of huge words that were beyond my grade level at the time I was reading them. And I had a dictionary, and I had a thesaurus, and when I saw a word that I didn't know, I looked it up. You will never improve as a writer if you don't read, because words are your tools. They're your jigsaw, they're your torque wrench, they're your paintbrush, they're your baking pans, they're your ingredients, and they're your blasted samoflange. You have to know how to learn new concepts. You have to learn how to learn new and unique words and what they mean. If you can't look up new words, you're dead in the water in this industry. If you want a great handle on the English language and you don't have words, you'll never make it. Reading gets you the words. So now that that is all said, it is actually time to show you my editing. Like, I am actually going to pull up an old file that I haven't seen. This is from 2005. So, see, I've got writing from 2001. I've been doing this for a decade. So the name of the story is It's Not the End of the World. It was part of my Angel collection. It was going to be erotica. The part that we are going over is not yet erotica. We'll open that up in a minute and we'll start going over my methods of editing. Okay, I'd better just admit that I'm very tired right now, but let's go ahead and jump into some editing. These are some of the editing tips and tricks that I promised you earlier. So earlier I said something along the lines of, if you can't really keep up as fast as I do with the editing, don't worry about it. As you go on with this, you will get faster. That wasn't necessarily a brag. Anybody can actually get to the point and the level of which they're going to be doing this as fast as we're about to. I basically stare at my writing until I hate it, so I don't really brag about anything. There's always room for improvement. There will always be room for improvement in your art. And in general, the more people that read your work and give you feedback, the better it's going to get in the long run. And that's okay. Criticism is good. Criticism can help you get better. So the first thing I notice is that there's this block right here that doesn't need to be there. But this is a formatting issue. Formatting is the first thing that's going to stick out to me in this particular color scheme, because everything is kind of blocked off. One of the formatting rules in Oxford Method, and I think Stanford Method as well, is that anytime you have quotation marks, that has to be on its own line. And that's actually a really good deal. So we got a couple of those. I used to do that a lot, I remember. And I'm actually not even getting to the part where I read this yet. Now this might be so big that I would need to do something different with that. That's a lot of expositional onslaught. But yeah, what I'm doing right now is my eyes are just glossing over everything to check for only the formatting. This means that, you know, periods are... Okay, this has got to go. That's an unnecessary detail. That is fucking with the formatting. I might go back and fix that in a minute, but that's not, that's a formatting issue. Taken care of. Okay. Okay, if there's a problem with formatting that also, like if you're just doing this really fast, if there's a problem with formatting and you want to fix it, but you also realize that if you, excuse me. So here I've highlighted this because there is a problem with the formatting. There is also a problem with if I get too far into it, my brain is going to switch out of formatting mode and into what the logistics, or what's logically going on here and the flow of it, which is not the part that I'm working on right now. The only part that I'm working on is formatting. Or I will also highlight something and come back to it if I have a question about it, like, is this still how we do this? This was how we used to put in a break. This does not necessarily mean that this is how a break should go in right now. This is just how one particular instructor or something taught me to do it. Here's another one. That is not supposed to be like that. These little, well, I don't want to highlight that whole thing. I've got, whatever is wrong there is, it's not a formatting issue, but it's sticking out to me so bad that I have to highlight it. Okay, highlighting right there because we don't know who's saying it, but it also, I had to break it up because of the formatting. Okay, this is just absolutely wrong, whatever the fuck that is. Okay, something's wrong there. Okay, so I reached the end of the document for formatting one time.